Assalamualaikum viewers, my name is Aleena Chaudhary and I'm going to read you a story called Rapunzel, written by the Grimm brothers. There once was a couple who had long in vain wished for a child at length. The woman hoped that God was about to grant her desire. They had a little window at the back of their house, from which a splendid garden could be seen, which was full of lovely flowers and herbs. It was, however, surrounded by a high wall, and no one dared to go into it, because it belonged to an enchantress who had great power and dreaded by all the world, Rapunzel. One day the woman was standing by this window and looking down into the garden, when she saw a bed with the beautiful rampion, Rapunzel, and it looked so fresh and green that she longed for it and had the greatest desire to eat some. This desire increased every day, and as she knew that she couldn't get any of it, she quite pined away and began to look pale and miserable. Her husband was alarmed. "What makes you sad, dear wife?" "Ah," she replied, "if I can't eat some of the rampion, I shall die." The man who loved her thought, "Sooner than let your wife die, bring her some of the rampion yourself, let it cost what it will." At twilight he clambered down over the wall into the garden of the enchantress, clutched a handful of rampion and took it to his wife. She at once made herself a salad of it and ate it. It tasted so good that the next day she longed for it 3 times. If he was to have any rest, her husband must once more descend into the garden. In the gloom of evening, therefore, he let himself down again. But when he had clambered down the wall, he was afraid, for he saw the enchantress standing before him. "How dare you," said she, with angry look, "descend into my garden and steal my rampion like a thief?" "You shall suffer for it," he answered. "Let mercy take the place of justice. I made up my mind to do it out of necessity. My wife saw your rampion from the window and felt such a longing for it that she would have died if she hadn't got some to eat." Then the enchantress allowed her anger to be softened and said to him, "If the case is as you say, I will allow you to take away with you as much rampion as you will. Only I make one condition. You must give me the child which your wife will bring into the world. It shall be well treated, and I will care for it like a mother." The man in his terror consented to everything, and when the woman was brought to bed, the enchantress appeared at once, gave the child the name of Rapunzel, and took it away from her. Rapunzel grew into the most beautiful child under the sun. When she was 12 years old, the enchantress shot her into a tower which lay into a forest, and had neither stairs nor door, but at the top was a little window. When the enchantress wanted to go in, she placed herself beneath it, cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair to me." Rapunzel had long hair, fine as gold, and when she heard the voice of the enchantress, she unfastened her tresses, wound them round the hooks, and the hair fell down, and the enchantress climbed up by it. After a year, it came to pass that the king's son rode through the forest and passed by the tower. Then he heard a song which was charming, that he stood still and listened. This was Rapunzel, who in her solitude passed her time in letting her voice resound. The king's son wanted to climb up to her and looked for the door of the tower, but none was to be found. He rode home, but the singing had touched his heart, that he went out into the forest and listened to it. When he was standing behind a tree, he saw an enchantress came there, and he heard how she cried, "If that is the ladder by which one mount, I will try my fortune," he thought, and the next day when it began to grow dark, he went to the tower and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." The hair fell down, and the king's son climbed up. At first, Rapunzel was frightened when the man came to her, but the king's son began to talk and told her that his heart had been so stirred that it had let him have no rest, and he had been forced to see her. Then Rapunzel lost her fear, and when he asked her if she would take him for her husband, and she saw that he was handsome, she thought, "He will love me more than old Dome Gothic does," and she said, "Yes," and laid her hand in his. She said, "I will go away with you, but I don't know how to get down." "Bring with you a skein of silk every time you come, and I'll weave a ladder with it, and when that's ready I'll descend, and you'll take me on your house." They agreed that unit that time he should came to her every evening, for the woman came by day. Then Enchantress remarked nothing for this until Rapunzel said to her, "Tell me how it happens that you're so much heavier for me to draw up than the young king's son. He's with me in a moment." "You wicked child!" cried the enchantress. "What do I hear you say? I thought I'd separated you from all over the world, and yet you've deceived me." In her anger, she clutched Rapunzel's tresses, wrapped them twice round her left hand, seized a pair of scissors with the right, and snip, snap, they were cut off, and the braids slay off the ground. And she was so pitiless that she took poor Rapunzel into a desert, where she had to live in a great grief and misery. The end. I hope you enjoyed my story. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe ZMC TV. Done.